This was insane to witness as the Toronto Maple Leafs come out and beat a very, very good team, the Colorado Avalanche, in a game that got some help from the referees for the first time, I feel like, this season. Shout out to Kelly Sutherland. But what matters most is that the Leafs take care of business. They are now very quickly turned around the narrative a little bit here. 2 big wins in a row, climbing back up in the Atlantic Division. And just like that, the Leafs are back. And not only are the Leafs back, not to jinx anything, but Gosse Matthews with arguably his best game in the past week. You could argue that's his best game of the season. He could have had multiple goals, 8 shots on goal, a ton to break down today. We're now exactly a month away from the playoffs. Everything is going well. Hope you're all doing well. And Darius, it was a huge win. They play again tomorrow. But we are now tied for first, just like that in the Atlantic Division. And it's crazy how fast things turn around. It was literally just 5 days ago or less than that where we were saying they can't slip. They got to bounce back. 2 huge wins against one okay team in the Flames, and then an absolutely fantastic game against the Colorado Avalanche against a very good team.
And now tomorrow you head into a game where you're playing another team that's struggling. I know it's the second half of a back-to-back, but you have an opportunity to take over sole possession of first here, right? You've really turned things around for yourself, which is great. And Matthews, let's touch on that quickly. He looks all of a sudden way better. I don't know what happened, but like it's the little things. I mean, all season and even lately I've been saying, I like his physicality and I feel like he's really trying out there, but he's just not himself. Something was bothering him. But the last 2 games, he looks closer to what we know. And I think that's obviously a great sign. But even tonight, it's just the little things in that play to Nyes in the third period, late in the third period there. Like, that's just something we haven't really seen all season. So that's a great sign. And Nick, I have to say, I'm going to ask you the question. I'm going to pose it to the chat. I'm going to start it now because I know it's going to be a question tomorrow morning. Who's your starter for the playoffs, Nick?
That's a really tough one. I thought you were going to ask me, is Gosse Matthews back? That's a very good question. I'm still big on the Anthony Stolarz train. However, that was the most dominant game of the season given the time frame. So for now, I think they're fighting for it. I think it's whoever's going to be hotter as the playoffs approach, because Anthony Stolarz is obviously going to get the nod tomorrow. He could have a very good game, but Joseph Woll was a huge part of this win, and without him, it would have been very difficult to win that game. That being said, I want to put a lot of credit. We'll obviously give Joseph Woll's credit, but a lot of credit on the defensive end there. A lot of the shots tonight, especially in the first period, not high danger shots. Their defensive plan was clearly to limit the amount of high danger chances in the neutral zone, and they did that perfectly. And also shout out to Chris Tanev at the end there with a game-saving tip to get the face off that Gosse Matthews inevitably won there. So a defensive masterclass. And to answer your question, I mean, I'm not going to overreact into one game, but it hasn't just been one game. Stoli is 1-3-1 in his last 5, so it's an interesting one. It might be. I'd probably still go with Stolarz for now, but it is extremely, extremely close.
It's flipped on its head a little bit, I think, after tonight. And again, I don't want to be too reactive, but I'm telling everyone now it's going to be a thing tomorrow. We're going to be talking about this tomorrow. So, might as well get ahead of it. And I think that, great hunch from Craig Berube, where, obviously Stolarz has been struggling, and that's okay. He'll probably find his game. But to go back to Woll again after a pretty good performance on Monday, he had a great game today. Like a couple huge saves tonight to really keep them in the game, and then win them the game, honestly, right there late in the third as well. So big game from Joseph Woll.
Yeah.
But Stolarz is going to be interesting, right? Like, obviously it's Stolarz tomorrow. Let's see how he performs. Let's see how the team performs. And then we'll kind of take it in stride for Saturday and see what happens the next couple of games. But I think this just got a lot more interesting in that regard because Stolarz he's been struggling a little bit. So we'll see what happens. I would also love to see the stats. I'll do a deep dive maybe tonight or tomorrow. Maybe we could do a video on it. But I just, for some reason, feel like when Joseph Woll plays better teams, he plays better, right? Like when he's playing the Utahs and stuff, like the Leafs kind of start to slow down a little bit. He doesn't come up with as big of saves, right? So I feel like we're going to be talking about this. And I feel like he comes up big against teams and in games and moments that they need him. And not saying that Stolarz hasn't, because he has done that, but I would love to see a comparison in terms of like their performances against playoff teams this year. So it's going to be a thing tomorrow. We're going to be talking about it, but great problem to have. I don't think this is an issue, and I think that Stolarz he's going to find his game at some point. And if he doesn't, that's why you got 2 goalies like this.
Yeah, and I think it was Lit Gaming asked me to pull up the standings. This is, of course, hasn't been updated yet to their win tonight, but they have now tied the Florida Panthers. Not only have they tied, they have the exact same record as the Florida Panthers, now being 41-24-3. So they are tied, but now, of course, their games in hand are no longer in hand because they have the same amount of games. But
Yep.
you're now tied for first place in the Atlantic as Jim comes in with the 5 gifted. Jim, thank you very much. 5 gifted. And if you're new, Chris, Mr. Green, Rogue, Soulmates, and Super Bear, you guys now have access to a bunch of emotes, updating them, and some other perks as well. So, Jim, thank you for the donation. If you did get one from Jim, make sure to thank him in the chat. Jim, thank you very much for the 5 gifted. And yeah, I mean, the Leafs are now very, very close to taking control. They're tied. We were 4 points out just a few days ago. Now you're right back in it, tied.
Yeah, no, this is a great spot to be in. And I know, if you look back, hindsight 2020, were we overreacting a couple of days ago? I don't think so because of the way that they were playing, right? Like it was looking real bad there for a second. I mean, Ottawa's kind of creeping up behind them as well, and you just lost to Ottawa on Saturday. So I don't think we were overreacting. But again, you have a great opportunity here. The division and the conference is so tight right now. It's unbelievable. Like everyone is still fighting for a playoff spot there in the East, except for maybe 2 teams at this point. So it's been real tight. And then the Atlantic, you have no idea where anyone's going to finish at this point. Like the Leafs could finish anywhere from 1 to the wild card 1, right? So it's going to be a crazy finish. Obviously, I think that they're going to finish in the top 3, but you need that home ice advantage, and more so than home ice advantage, like then that second seed, you need to make sure that you finish in the number 1 seed, because if you do make the second round, then you can have home ice advantage as well. That would work out nicely for them. So and not only that, you want to give yourself the best chance to move on to round 2, right? You don't know who you're going to play in the first wild card spot. And Ottawa doesn't have playoff experience, right? So we'll see how that goes, but playoffs are around the corner. They have to keep up this pace and this performance. And they got a little bit of lucky tonight too. Like that goal was pretty absurd. Like that the chances of that happening are very low. Great shot by Lorentz though. I mean, take advantage of the opportunity, right? But no, this was fantastic and way to bounce back after a pretty crazy game after the trade deadline against the Avs. This was a nice, it's a tight 2-1 win. You feel good about this one.
Very good goal by Lorentz. Like the shot wasn't that easy, and he drilled it. Also, the penalty on Carlo is a bit whack too, because he was tripped into the tripping.
Right.
So I mean, like it all worked out at the end. It was a weird one, but puck don't lie. That's what I'm gonna call that one. But yeah, I mean, it is a brutal schedule to end the year too. A lot of hockey games. They're in first place now for the first time in a little bit, not too long, but finally have our. I mean, I don't know. It's crazy. It's a very quick turnaround. They play tomorrow, but at the same time, we can soak in this win a little bit tonight. What's up, Joshua? Because at the end of the day, this was a very big win, and I think the Avs, they had a very good record over the past 8 games or so. So
yeah,
it was a very, very crucial win. And also, looking at some of the before we get Jim's call in here, looking at the new guys, I'll ask you, Darius. This is kind of a theme we've started to do now, and the chat as well. How do we feel tonight about Brandon Carlo and Scott Laughton?
The player and how he's playing specifically, we'll start with Brandon Carlo. I think he's been fine the entire time, and I like what he's done. He's not here to score goals, right, or to make plays in the offensive zone. He's here to be a defensive defenseman and a big body, and I think that he's only going to get better when the playoffs start. This is exactly the type of player you want in the playoffs. So the only thing I am worried about in terms of the defense is, again, tonight, from what we saw this morning, the blender came out again, and Riley's playing with OEL, and I feel like that's to kind of shelter both of them to a degree, right? So that's not great, but I think Benoit. The thing for me is I don't necessarily like the pairings, but they would only work the way that they were initially lined up in a perfect world, I guess, at this point. Like I don't know if it's actually gonna work out, but I do have to say that Simone Benoit and Brandon Carlo in the same pairing, if you're the opposing team in the playoffs, that's probably gotta suck to play against that, right? Especially if you get around one guy, like you're not getting around the second guy, I feel like. So I think that he's been great since he came in. Honestly, I feel like he's playing his role great. Scott Laughton, they acquired him. I don't know if it's necessarily his fault, right? And I don't think he's looked that bad, honestly. And I think he's going to get better, and he's still trying to adjust. He's been playing in a bunch of different spots since they got him. They acquired him to play third line center. He's not doing that right now. He's obviously playing on the fourth line. In the third period, I didn't hate his play either. I thought that, he had a couple good shifts there, but there's not enough of a sample size, and he's kind of been bounced around different positions. So I really don't know how I feel about Scott Lawton yet. We're at that point now where I said, we can judge them all. I still don't know how I feel about him. Hasn't been great. They're not using him where obviously they acquired him to use him in the third line center position, but um, Carlo's been great to me, to be honest. But Nick, I don't know how you feel. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
same.
hard to have an opinion on Scott Lawton, right? Like,
Yeah, he hasn't been good, but I mean, at the end of the day, he's kind of getting thrown in a bunch of different avenues. So I don't know. We'll have to see how. I think ultimately they made this trade for the playoffs, so we're gonna have to wait to see how he does in the playoffs. And gave up a lot for him in theory. Uh, like I would have much rather now in hindsight, but at least when we were able to match it. Like a Brock Nelson, he looked very good on the Avs, and he would probably fit this team a lot better than Scott Laughton. But again, the package they give up for uh, Brock Nelson and Scott Laughton were both hefty in their own right. So
no.
it was interesting. And again, they gave up a first and a Nikita Grabenkin. I don't think Grabenkin's a big loss. The first can be, but the impact scorecard is out as well here, and it's an interesting one because I mean, not that interesting. I mean, also shout out to Benoit. He has been, and I think by
Yeah.
even advanced metrics like XGF percentage, he has been I think he's been the best Leaf for the past like week or two. He looks like a completely different player. Another point tonight. He's had so many. Yeah, I agree, gentlemen. He's had so many great games. Tonight was another one. He has just been absolutely fantastic. And yeah, Brock Nelson, like it probably wouldn't have happened because it was a rental, and that's not what Brad Schlimming does. But I don't know. Benoit's been amazing. McCabe was great. Chris Tanev tonight. Austin Matthews with some bad individual defense, but oh well, worked. Which is interesting. I thought he played pretty good against matched up with McKinnon there, but it is interesting. At the end of the day, any surprises in the scorecard here?
Not necessarily. The one thing that I'm glad that he's, when I was watching the game, the eye test kind of matches up with this because I was thinking in my head, McCabe is definitely one of my 3 stars tonight because he was super noticeable out there and for all the right reasons. I thought he was great. So I'm glad that he was up there. Simone Benoit, again, like the last like week and a half, 2 weeks, he's been, I feel like in the top 5 every time. Like he's been playing great. And Austin Matthews, he's been playing great as well. So this kind of matches up with the eye test, I think, this time. There's a lot of negative on this this impact score chart this time, which I think is interesting too. But again, I think that, when you look at this one, Matthew, like that top line and the negative impact, look who they're playing against,
Yeah.
right? In this game. It's tough to judge that. And obviously they didn't score many goals. So I think that's a good thing.
Yeah. Got to hop on the train. I thought he played fine defensively, especially against. I mean, naturally, you're going to have some negative defense when you're going up against one of the best teams offensively and the best player, debatably, who you have your best player in the world. So it's gonna be an interesting one, and hopefully Simone Benoit can continue to pursue this. But yeah, I mean the trades. They're going to be a topic of conversation because obviously gave up Minton at first for Carlo, and then of course Lawton you gave up Grabenkin. So it is very very interesting to go on that front. Also, if you're in here, let's try to get to 50 likes. We're at 27 right now, 107 of you guys in here. So let's do that, and let's get Jim in for a call in here. We traded 2 firsts, 2 prospects, 2 players for Lawton and Carlo. That is true. It is a hefty price to pay. However, this is going to be for years, like not just this year, next year as well. And I'm fine with the Carlo trade. Even in hindsight, he's been pretty good.
Carlo's going to be here for a couple years after this, and I think with Scott Lawton, I feel like the plan is to move off of David Camp next year because he has a no trade clause, by the way, which is insane for a fourth liner. But he has a no trade clause, but I think it is up after like this summer, essentially like July 1st. It's up, so they can trade him heading into next season. So I feel like that's the move because Lawton only makes 1.15 or something like that against the cap. So I don't want to say it was a move for next year, but I feel like it was a move to add some depth this year. And also you kind of at least have your fourth line center, maybe a third line center next year. So, it was a kind of move. If you go out and get Brock Nelson, yes, it helps you now. But if the Leafs go out in first round again, that is tough. That would be a tough trade. So they were playing it a little bit safe. But I think the Carlo trade is just a no-brainer win at this point. Like that was a great trade.
Yeah. Late first round picks as well. Someone, gentleman saying, expect Camp back in tomorrow. You guys think Reeves will play? No.
Reeves can't come back up. Reeves is interesting. He hasn't even reported.
He's still with the Marlies unreported. So unless they do some crazy, they're gonna keep him out. Like they might put Camp in for like Yarncroke or Nick Robertson tomorrow probably. But other than that, it's tomorrow's gonna be much of the same.
The lineup so I think the only 2 scratches right now are Myers and David Camp outside of the lineup tonight. I don't think they can add anyone else like Hawkenpaw or Pacioretty until the playoffs because of the salary cap. So somebody would have to get injured if they were going to reactivate somebody or bring up Reeves. So, and again, Reeves, he hasn't he hasn't
Yeah,
reported,
I don't
and
think
the
he's going
coach
to play
hasn't
game
spoke
one
to
of the
him.
playoffs. I don't think he's going
No,
to.
like I
He's not even in game shape now.
I no, I don't think so. Yeah, that turned around quickly. I thought something else of him, but that kind of turned around quickly, I guess. And they had to make some decisions here, and they only have so much cap space. So
Yeah,
that's that. They can still bring him up.
could.
Not that I'm holding on to that, but they could. They could
Yeah.
in
Carlos, a
the
huge
playoffs.
steal. What's up, Profit? All right, let's get Jim in here.
Absolutely.
All right, Jim. It was a very good game, a very big win, and since the call that we had against the when they lost last time, not the call in last time, but the one before that, ever since then everything's turned around for the Leafs here, and now we're talking about back-to-back wins, back in tied for first place. The energy is high.
Absolutely, guys. How are you doing tonight? I'm guessing you're as good as everybody in the chat tonight, myself included. Guys, it's kind of crazy. Like a month from today is the playoffs begin, which I was a little shocked to hear that, but literally 1 month from today it starts. So some really positive stuff here. Something a little different. So I was fortunate enough to take a tour of the Scotiabank arena earlier this year, and I've never done that before. But I got a full tour of the Toronto Maple Leafs dressing room. So this is going to dovetail nicely into what I'm going to say tonight. So if you walk out of the Leafs dressing room, guys, as you go down the hall on your left, huge sign. Everyone can see it. All the people that are in the halls can see this huge sign that says "Protect this house." It's on your left, to the players' left as you walk down. But there's a little sign above that only the players can see, that will just before you get on the ice. And that sign says "Compete." And tonight they sure did. Let's face it, Colorado is a solid two-way juggernaut. They've solidified their goaltending this year. And other than that, they have no holes. They're probably top two to win the Stanley Cup this year. And the Leafs looked fantastic tonight against them. I mean, complete defensive game is absolutely back. I'm so impressed with how they've gone from me screaming and ranting less than a week ago to like me praising them up and down. I had to like cut down my list of guys I wanted to throw flowers at tonight because there was so many guys that did well tonight. But Darius, I'm going to start off by saying this: is that I'm going to dovetail on something you said, which is Brian McCabe. Brian McCabe. Let's talk
We're
about
going old school tonight with the ACC.
Not Brian McCabe. Sorry guys, I'm running on like 2 hours sleep here. Let's talk about McCabe, not Brian. Brian's been gone for 25, 30 years. So McCabe tonight, massive hits, and at times was even channeling his inner like Cale Makar, like lots of offense and his usual confident defense. He was throwing hits. He had some crazy offensive chances too. I think Tanev, he's incredible, right? And what is, as I've said many times before, and you guys have said the same, like Tanev adds like a solidifying factor to our defense. But I think sometimes McCabe's contributions do get overlooked a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think tonight was a great showing about how, I mean, yes, individually they're great, but wow, does McCabe, not Brian, but McCabe, does he ever add a lot to this team? Because I think if the team feels they just play differently when they know that defensively we got this, and you see a player like McCabe who's not really known for his offense. Obviously, he's feeling confident in their ability to defend when he's jumping in offensively so much, and you see a lot of that tonight. What are your thoughts, guys?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that there's this weird thing that I also noticed with another team, the Winnipeg Jets, where when Dylan Sandberg and Neil Pionk are playing together, it just seems like the team, not even the defense pairings, but the team itself works better. I don't know how to describe it. It's like they're the glue of the team. And when one guy's out due to injury, it's like everything falls apart and they start losing games. I've noticed that with the Jets so far this year, and that's kind of something that Jets fans have been saying online as well. And I noticed that with the Leafs. If you don't have that pairing together, Tanev and McCabe, it's kind of like things are just off everywhere. I don't know how to describe it, but it's like McCabe is a glue guy. I really don't know how to describe it better than that. Like when he's in the lineup and he's playing with Tanev, he just makes the team that much better. And he gets overlooked a lot because he's not, necessarily great at any one thing, right? He's not like an elite level, like he's not Austin Matthews with his scoring, right? He's not elite at any
Right.
one thing, but he's really good, a two-way guy, right? Like he's really good and brings that to the table. And there was a quote, I can't remember who said it, but it was earlier this season that, every team that wins the Stanley Cup has a guy like Jake McCabe on their team, where it's exactly that. He's a great
Yep.
two-way guy, right? That kind of gets overlooked sometimes, but he plays great and nobody really talks about him. So, no, he's been great. Tanev's great too, but I think McCabe is severely overlooked. I'm glad that they signed him for what they did because
Absolutely.
obviously that was earlier this season. You get that out of the way. You know what you have in him. Salary cap's going up, so that's great. But no, I think that he's another glue guy for this team. If he's out of the lineup or he's not playing with Tanev, things just seem off for some reason. I also wanted to backtrack for a second for something you
Yeah, yeah.
said earlier. I still call it the ACC myself, so
Okay, yep,
it'll
me too.
always be
Well,
the ACC to me. And I have been down there by the dressing room too. It's actually really nice what they did. I think they did renovations over the summer
yeah,
with the actual walkway to the rink. But
yeah,
there's signage like that everywhere, and even inside their jerseys in the collar, it's honor, pride, courage.
yeah,
There's stuff everywhere, and I remember they didn't have compete there for the longest time. That's new, and I think
yeah,
that
yeah.
was something. Um, no, for real though. But
No,
I
it's
think
true. You're right. It was
right.
added this year.
It was added this year, and I believe that it was something Shanahan did because it was in Maple Leaf Gardens. I think that was something that Doug Gilmore and Wendell Clark put up. I can't remember the exact story, but that was something they used to have in the room, and then they didn't have it for I guess 35 years or whatever it is at this point, and they added it
Right.
back this year. And I kind of like stuff like that, so just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, me too. And let's face it, there. If any team in the playoff needs a higher level of compete, it's definitely this team. So I'm gonna move on, guys, to my
Yep.
second point, which is the power play. The power play continues to roll, and at the absolute best time, unbelievable. I'm gonna go to so I looked it up on StatMuse. Okay, so the Leafs power plays average this year is about 25 to 26%. Kind of not so good. Almost
Good
automatically.
save. Good save.
But yeah, yeah, yeah. But as of the last 10 games, the Leafs power play, you want to take a guess what percentage we're running at now, boys? 36.7%. 36.7%. So, I mean, obviously, like we were like, that was 25% is terrible, but 36%, and that's 11% increase, which obviously that is like a series clinching difference. And so I'm not saying that necessarily they're going to always run at that clip, but they should be. And they look more confident, and they look like they're more purposeful with their entries, and their control is much better. I'm not sure what's changed, and I still don't like the five forwards on the power play because I'm not sure if you guys looked this up. I think we're still fourth in shorthanded goals
Yep.
against, but and a defenseman might be helpful in that. But other than that, though, focusing on the power play, you know what? I don't know what's changed, but God, it looks better, guys. What do you think?
Yeah, way better. And obviously, part of that has been Matthews looking better as of late. I think that it's funny how quick narratives change in hockey and how things change in
Absolutely.
general. But it's the time of year. I think a lot of it too, because now the Leafs are going from a really rough stretch. They were really, and I think the announcers talked about it in their last game. It may have been tonight. I'm getting my whatever days mixed up. The Leafs are really on edge there for a little bit. 1-3-1 or whatever it was in their last five during that road
Hmm.
trip, and they were slipping quickly. And I'll put up the standings again. Like they were genuinely slipping quickly, especially after that loss to the Ottawa Senators. Like, yeah, they weren't going to miss the playoffs, but if you head into the playoffs with a tougher matchup, especially for the Leafs, now you're going to have to play the teams regardless. The power play immediately has switched. We saw it tonight. Obviously, Austin Matthews, the power play goal. You're right. It looks way better, and they look like they've flipped a switch. And I don't think they've changed anything to your point. I think they're literally just playing with more intent, I guess, and effort. I think that's all it is
Hmm.
with this team. We know it for the past 5 years. When they play locked in with effort, we saw it tonight. And even though they were getting outshot in the first period, whatever it was, 15-4, 12-4, most of those shots, especially in the first period, were low danger, just shots from the point. Whereas now their defensive scheme was good, and the offense it worked. And they, even though they only got two goals, one of them being lucky, that's what happens. And this is against a team in Colorado who had scored three or more straight in a lot of games in a row. So I think it's just a matter of effort, and that's the biggest thing. I'm not saying the Leafs don't try sometimes, but there's clearly a big difference between them when they're locked in or whatever tonight was compared to even literally just 4 days ago against the Senators.
And if I can
Yeah.
chime in here for a second, just one thing I've noticed with this team specifically, this era, right? And why I think Leaf fans get frustrated and why the narrative switch so much is because a lot of things with this team should be right? And when you look at other teams, like I'm going to bring up the Edmonton Oilers and the Winnipeg Jets as an example in terms of the power play. At points in the playoffs last year, at points this season, they were operating at 35 to 41%, which is it
Right.
unsustainable? Maybe, but why is yours at 20 to 25, right? You should
Right.
you have the skill to be a lot, at least 30%, maybe, right? So I feel like that's why a lot of people get frustrated and we look at it like this is awful. This is genuinely terrible because, you are 11 or 12% worse than some of the teams that are, really clicking, like Edmonton and Winnipeg, for example. So I think that's where the
Absolutely.
frustration comes from, where it's like, this is brutal. Why, we should have, because of the personnel in the power play, and I do agree there should be a defenseman there. I totally agree with that. I don't know
Mhm.
who it is at this point, but figure it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's where that frustration comes from.
Yeah. Like, yeah, it definitely seems like that there's more of a, um, there's an absolute intent and intensity about it, where it just seemed to be a little more laissez-faire before,
Hmm.
and casual, and now it seems like this is, Nick has mentioned that they use this phrase before, and I like it, which is, I'm not sure if it statistically will back up, but like the eye test of our power play now, it looks threatening.
Yes.
Where normally they're just like perimeter, 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 cough it up, and then go get it out of our own end, right? Where now that's not the case. They have sustained puck possession in our own in the offensive zone, and they are causing havoc. And let's face it, Colorado is a solid team all the way around. I mean, their only question mark I would say would be possibly goaltending, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with them. But guys, we can imagine we have gone from me freaking out a week ago, and probably a lot of Leaf Nations and many of my buddies in the chat here doing the same, and definitely you too, to like now we're tied again for the top of the Atlantic. Like, it's a funny world, this Leaf fandom, right? Guys, I know you guys already talked about this, but Joseph Wall, crap on Joseph Wall sometimes because of his rebound control and some other things. But you know what? My God, he had a good game tonight. And Nick, you made a good point tonight and a solid conversation. Sorry, but I'm not sure which one of you said it, but there's a conversation that could be had based if provided Wall can continue what he did tonight as to who's the number one goaltender. And I put it in the chat. We've seen it in the past, like what kind of like issues we've had with goaltending and what trials and tribulations that can cause in terms of playoff performance. But like, isn't wondering which one of our awesome goaltenders is going to start? Isn't that a great problem to have in Toronto?
It's a problem we've never had, or we haven't had it for a long time.
Absolutely,
So I think that
absolutely.
I think it's a totally fine problem to have, and I think it's going to get really interesting now because I honestly wasn't expecting this to happen because Stolarz has been so solid. Now he's
Right.
kind of falling off a little bit. I want to see if he can, find his game again. Joseph Wall, if he continues to play like this, and again, I feel like every time he plays, an opponent that is maybe equal to the Leafs or greater than, he really, raises the bar and he plays really well. Like when he was called upon to play Boston last year too. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to get interesting. He has more playoff experience than Anthony
He
Stolarz.
does.
That's something to consider. Stolarz is kind of struggling right now. He plays. I don't want to say he plays better in big games because I feel like Stolarz has come up big for the Leafs, especially earlier this season.
For
But
sure.
I think it's going to get interesting. Stolarz gets in tomorrow, so we'll see what he has, and then down the stretch, I wonder who starts Saturday. And I think it just got a lot more interesting, but I wouldn't say it's
Mm-hmm.
completely swayed one way or another yet. Obviously, I think we got to give it another 2 weeks and kind of see what happens with their performances.
Well, I think too, guys, when you look at Wall's performance tonight, and definitely, like, I mean, for the most part, they're over the losing streak. I don't think either one of our goaltenders was playing great, but it's hard to gauge that because the team in front of them wasn't playing great either,
Yeah.
right? But you look at Wall, and I would say the one word that I can use to describe him tonight, which I've rarely used about him, is confident. He looked so confident. Like he made 3 glove saves, and I don't think he even moved because we've talked about before how he's such a positionally strong goaltender. But my God, he honestly, he looked fantastic tonight. So full praise to him. And lastly, guys, just want to say, um, obviously these guys get a lot of praise, but I crapped all over him. So let's give a little. I'm going to give some love to our boy, your favorite guy and mine, Austin Matthews. You know what? I've wondered sometimes. I know he's been injured, but I just wondered what his compete level is. I don't know what he's going through. but he's got some kind of injury. You guys noted that the other day in the video. Great video, by the way. And he's got something going on. And whatever he's done, he just said, you know what? I have to, pull out my big boy pants and get this done for the team because I'm wearing the captaincy of one of the greatest franchises and one of the oldest franchises in the NHL. And I don't think he's going to let this opportunity slip by because that's happened before. And I think this is the year maybe he's going to say, you know what, guys? Well, I don't know what's going to happen, but we're not going to give up without a fight on my watch. And I'd love to see it.
Yeah, needed that. Needed it.
Yeah, absolutely. Lastly, guys, GM talks today. They were talking about the, continuing the format of the Four Nations as opposed to doing the fantastic All-Star game. I'm really, really in favor of that. I just want to know, just quickly, guys, what are you guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think the All-Star game's stupid, and they should keep Four Nations for the rest of the time. Darius, your thoughts?
Okay. Appreciate that, Nick.
I am cautious of doing it every year because I feel like it could lose some type of its magic, right? Because it was obviously there was a huge appetite for it this year. So I think that there's something they can do maybe every 2 years. Maybe they can offset it with a World Cup of hockey or something. Kind of like how the World Cup and the Euro Cup, they do that with soccer. So maybe they could do something like that, right? Where you have it off year in between. Maybe you have an all-star game in between kind of thing. So at least you have those still, even though not preferable for me. But I do think if you have it every year, it could lose some of its magic. But I thought it was great and I would like to see more of it. That's for sure. Maybe with some more teams too. Maybe if they did like 6 or 8 teams, that'd be a lot better too.
My pushback on that, Darius, I respect your opinion, but I disagree. Is that the World Juniors happen every year? I don't see anybody getting
that is fair.
sick of that.
That is fair.
That's it for me, guys. You know what? As always, guys, you guys absolutely killing it. Love the stream, love the videos. For all my buddies that are in the chat, hello. I'm so glad you're there. For all the new people that are there, this is the Best Leaf channel. You have found the best. Go nowhere else. Subscribe, like the video. I'm not affiliated with these guys. I just love this freaking channel. And these two guys you're looking at here are absolute pros. This is a community. Welcome to it, guys. And that's all from me. You guys have a great night. I'm out.
Fantastic, Jim. Pleasure as always. Thank you very much, everyone. Shout out to Jim in the chat there. Always fantastic takes. Always good takes. And it's a good point.
Before we get into our 3 stars, I did want to follow up with a couple things you said. So the power play, we were talking about the power play a lot, and Nick, you had some good points on that. Jim obviously had some great points on that as well. And the one thing that I noticed, the reason why it looks more dangerous, I believe, is something that we pointed out in a video, I think it was last week, where they're putting the puck to the net. Whereas before, and the reason they kept having to go get the puck out of their own zone is because they were just passing around the perimeter, then they would mess up a pass, the other team would get it and ice it. They're putting the puck to the net. Like the only reason Matthews scored tonight, Nyes didn't put it in. It just hit a stick and went in. Just put the puck to the net. That's why it worked. And quickly, before I throw it over to you again, what Jim was saying about Matthews and what we covered in that video a couple days ago, that he's clearly playing through something. Craig Berube came out and said that the other day he took the dressing room, essentially, he stood up and said something essentially to the room. And I think that he has this, there's this narrative around Matthews that he isn't the most vocal captain, and you never really see him saying anything on the bench and stuff like that. He's clearly playing through something. He's starting to play a little bit better the last 2 games, which is great. So hopefully it's not bothering him as much, but he's, pulling up his big boy pants. He's lacing up his skates though. He's going out there and saying, I'm still the best. You guys need to raise your level to mine, right? And if he stood up in front of the team and said something the other day, that's contagious. That's something that, again, it was right before, the Calgary game, and they kind of turned it around since. So I love that from him. That's exactly what a captain needs to do. I want to see more of that. And that's just the stuff you need if you're the captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I think, again, it's contagious if you're a teammate of his, where you're going to go, okay, I'm in now. I bought in. I'm going to, you know what? He's right. So I love that.
Yeah, it was a turning point, it seems, ever since then. And hopefully the Leafs can keep it going here. I've been seeing some back and forth in the chat. Jay Edwards, you're really going at that trade with the Leafs. I'm going to respectfully disagree. I think the Carlo trade was fantastic. You have to, holding on to prospects and first-round picks at this point is just dumb. You have your core for defense, your defensive core next 2 to 3 years. Who knows what the future of Mitch Marner is? Who knows what the future of, obviously, Austin Matthews is going to be good for a while. So I think you got to get the deal done there. We can get into our 3 stars. Shout out to Jim again for holding it down, and Darius, you as well. Yeah. I had food poisoning yesterday, so just keep in mind if my energy seems low, that is why. We're still on the on the road, back to recovery, but it helped
You look great,
that
Nick.
the Leafs got it. Yeah, it's good that the Leafs got it done. Needed a win tonight. Makes me feel better while I continue to recover there. But Darius, will start with you.
Yeah, so let's get into it here. Third star, I think this could be a pretty easy list for me tonight. I'm gonna go with my third star being Jake McCabe. He was very noticeable, like I mentioned off the top here, all night long, making some great plays, and he's been great all season. He's been a guy that very underappreciated, I think, and I think that a lot of the hardcore fans see it, but in terms of the casual fans and what people are going to learn in the playoffs, this guy is a good player. I love Jake McCabe.
My third star is going to go to Austin Matthews / Simon Benoit. I'm gonna give two of them for my third star tonight. We're gonna go with Matthews. Fantastic game. Benoit also fantastic game, and for all the reasons we just talked about with Matthews.
Yeah, I'm gonna go second star Austin Matthews. Another great game. Looks like he's playing more like himself, honestly, which is a great sign. And I love the fact that everything I heard the last couple of days, I love it. He's acting like a captain, and he's putting the team on his back. So absolutely love that.
I'm gonna go Jake McCabe, number 2. Visibly fantastic tonight.
Yeah, definitely. Eye test kind of matched up with the chart here too. And first star, no brainer.
Both
Joseph Wall. Yeah, fantastic game. Kept the minute. I actually thought the shots were the opposite. So I missed, full transparency, I missed the first and like half of the second period. And I thought the shots, I don't know, for some reason I was looking at the score app and I thought the shots were the opposite.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, they're playing great. And then I realized there was Joseph Wall playing great, and he did continue to play great through the third. Yeah, of course. And they were keeping a lot of the shots to the perimeter, which is something you mentioned as well. So, that's a recipe for success. So, honorable mention, Kelly Sutherland.
Yeah, he and Steven Lorentz as well, because I don't want to take credit away from the shot because it wasn't a wide open breakaway. He actually had to score the puck, and he had a very good shot on that, especially for a fourth liner who doesn't shoot that many shots a game. So I want to give credit to Steven Lorentz as well. But yeah, exactly, Jim. Ladies and gentlemen, 12 hours from now, we'll be right back here. So hopefully we'll be talking about a win, or not 12, 24. I guess 12 hours from now in a video, but 24 hours from now in a stream.
I was like, what time is the game tomorrow?
24 hours, we're right back in a stream. Every single game the rest of the way. I will probably miss one next week. I'm going to Toronto. You actually might see, if you're in here now, you might see a Darius. We might be doing a stream together from the same spot. So if you're in here now, it might be a sneak peek. I know Jim and your stuff, you're in here. So I might miss one next week during my trip to Toronto. So Wednesday. I don't know when they play next week, but
they play, I think it's Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday.
Okay, so Thursday is probably,
or it might be Sunday.
One of the games. Sunday I'll probably be there, but I'm going to miss probably one next week because I'll actually be in Toronto. Maybe I'll meet some of you all when I'm up there. But Darius, any final thoughts? A week away from the playoffs. Sorry, a month away from the playoffs. Yeah. I got food poisoning brain here. And this was a must-win game, and they did it. This was just such a fantastic win from top to bottom. And I don't think anyone really had a bad game. Like OEL, Yarncroke didn't look noticeable necessarily, but a win's a win.
A win is a win. It doesn't matter how they come. Sometimes you got to get lucky, right? So they kept, obviously, like you mentioned, like the Lorentz thing, he still had to score that goal, right? Like it was a bit of a gift, but still had to put the puck in the back of the net there. But no, great performance all around. I think obviously when you look at the impact score chart, a lot of the negative comes from the top line who are defending, some of the best players in the league. So great game overall. Like what I saw from the defense, Joseph Wall with a very strong and, like Jim said, confident game. He looked like he was on top of his game today. Love that. This is closer to the Joseph Wall we know and have become accustomed to. So that was great to see. And Matthews, something, I don't know what it is. I don't know if he's drinking the prime, right? I don't know if Logan Paul shipped him, a huge shipment of his special prime or something like that with his face on it. But he's playing a lot better. So that's good to see.
Yeah, it's all good, dude. Jake McCabe. I'll do a Brian McCabe emote for you. Call into your own stream. That will be done. If I miss the game. Got to keep it rolling. Hopefully game 3 tomorrow. What's up, Jose, as well? Sorry, we're wrapping up as soon as you get in here, but hope you're doing well. Jose, ladies and gentlemen, it is going to be an interesting next few hours. I guess not next few hours, so I'll be sleeping. But tomorrow's going to be a big game against the New York Rangers, and we'll be right back here. So a fantastic night. We will have a video for you all tomorrow afternoon. Stay tuned for that. Fantastic stream. The Leafs are back. They're back to, I feel like it was a long time until we had good vibes from the team. Like they were playing with such dead energy. Now we're back. The Leafs are rolling, and we'll be back here, and we'll continue rolling in tomorrow's game. Take it easy. Yeah, not me, Jim. Take it easy. And it's going to be, oh, what's up, Jose? Sorry, I didn't see that. Same lines except Wall for Stoli. That's actually a question I will ask as well here.
Different.
Do you think we have different lines? You can type in the chat. Jose, thank you for your support as well. Type in chat before we wrap up. That's a good question, actually. I meant to ask that before we finish. What do you think the lines are for tomorrow's game?
It's going to be interesting. I wonder if Benoit comes out, but he has been playing so well that it'd be hard to take him out. But I do wonder if it's him coming out. I have a hard time believing it would be Riley or OEL. But those would be like my top three to come out on defense. Maybe Myers gets in. And then in terms of the forward group, if it's Lawton getting scratched, that is horrifying.
No
but
it's gonna be Robertson or Youngcroak.
Yeah, but exactly, and I think it's David Kampf. Obviously,
they actually might move up Lawton to the third line tomorrow. I could see a world.
Maybe he plays wing, and that's his game at wing, right? So we'll kind of see there, but we'll see. I think there's a real possibility because, of course, coaches are, creatures of habit. So I think there's a possibility, but just with the schedule as of late and the fact that it's a back-to-back, at least one change, I think, but. I don't know. I've been wrong before, so we'll see.
And they won. So they've won 2 games in a row now. Everyone's saying same. Well, we'll find out. We'll see you guys in tomorrow's. Hold on. Jose with the 5. Jose, any message on that one? Thank you very much for the $5 donation. Jose,
thank you, Jose.
Supporter. Thank you. Glad to see you in the stream as well. Same Kampf maybe Lawton out. Kampf in. I just don't see a world even for the optics that they did. Also, like Youngcroak had a worse game tonight than Scott Lawton did, at least according to Advanced Analytics. I don't think Scott Lawton was necessarily horrible tonight.
I could see Youngcroak coming up, but
Nylander seemed quiet tonight as well. Nylander seemed a little bit past couple of games.
I wonder if I don't think we're gonna get the lineup until right before game time as well, because they're probably not going to skate tomorrow. So that's going to be something to keep tabs on. Stolars is definitely playing in terms of changes, but I think both Kampf and maybe Myers make their way in as well.
We will see, and we'll have a little bit of. Jim with the 10. We'll stay live for a little bit longer. I got to find the emote. Bad sushi. Surprisingly, not sushi. It was I think it was at least flatbread pizza from the grocery store.
Very, very specific.
And yeah, I mean, it was like the only thing I ate, and it was the worst food poisoning I've ever had in my life. Horrible. So shout out to Darius in yesterday's video, because I was still in the midst of it in yesterday's video. Like I was holding on for dear life in that one. Jim, thank you for the 10. Not sushi though. I feel like that's kind of the go-to food poisoning.
That's how Nylander got sick last year too, when he missed 2 games.
And that's my first time having food poisoning. Completely understand why you would miss a hockey game for that, because man, it is just. I missed the basketball game. Sleep is for the weak. Stream all night. When the playoffs come. Will be if they win. Probably if they lose, they might be longer actually, because I feel like every game in the playoffs is going to be because I wonder when the schedule. I mean, the schedule's out, right? As it pertains to obviously not game times, but we know when they're starting.
It's a month from today. So the first game would be, the first Leafs game would be the Saturday. So I don't know if it's the first, because obviously I think it starts sometimes on the Thursday or Friday. The first Leafs game will be that Saturday.
Well, shout out for the Leafs game not being blacked out tonight for the first time in a while. So
yes.
I'm gonna give credit to that. That would be fantastic, Jim.
So.
If anyone knows a guy over there, rock it out. But everyone, fantastic. Thank you guys very much. Jose, thank you for the donation.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you for the donation. Giving me flashbacks to to last night. Have a fantastic night, everybody, and we will see you in the video tomorrow. That's the wrong one. This is the right one.
Digest your daily dose of gold. Stories of the bold where legends untold. From first pop drop to the season's full.